Welcome to the Minx and Muse podcast. I'm your host, Crimson Minx, creatrix of Minx and Muse, a dark feminine playhouse where we awaken our innate magic through esoerotic dance and witchcraft. Welcome to the portal of enchantment. Welcome, Wade
Yay.
Vetiver, to the Minx and Muse podcast. Thank you
I'm
so
so
much for
honored.
joining.
Thank you. This is great. Like I was telling you earlier, this is my first one ever, so I'm truly honored to be here. Thank you.
I can't believe, especially with all of the things that you do on social media, that this is actually your first podcast. So happy to pop that
Thank
cherry.
you. Yeah, I mean, I've been asked. I guess there's a few things like been apprehensive about because I don't know how it would go, and also uh, it's sort of like it's raw me, and I don't go live very often or do anything like that either. So it's unfiltered. This is the unfiltered version. You know what I mean? But I'm overdue, so it's time.
Yes. Well, such an honor. Thank you for agreeing because I reached out to you on Instagram. We've been chatting for a while, but I have actually been to your shop. That's how we initially met. So the name of your shop is Solidago.
Yes.
It's in San Marcos. For those who are not local to Austin, that's about 45 minutes outside of Austin-ish, an hour outside of Austin, depending where you are.
Depending on traffic.
Traffic.
Yeah, and
Yeah, so
oh, go ahead. No, sorry.
no, I was just gonna ask you to just spill the beans. Tell
Spill.
us about yes, what does Solidago mean?
Yeah,
And perhaps you want to just also share what inspired you to open it and whatever you were about to say before I rudely interrupted you.
you didn't interrupt. Solidago is the Latin genus of the plant goldenrod. And it means to make whole, to make solid. And, in the stuff that we do, magic, witchcraft, herbalism, I feel like that was the kind of umbrella name for my mission as well. Like it's a place where you go to make yourself whole in some way, in the triangle of life, which can maybe have a corner kind of tilted in career or, health or family. And I just wanted to be a place where I could express my hobbies and my spirituality. But also I was in a really crazy situation living in New York City the last 8 years and working in healthcare and the pandemic and just everything kind of cataclysmically fell apart. And I was just I want to just do something that's authentically me, unapologetically me. And then I had a death in the family, and that brought me back where when I was here, I was thinking I love it here. I love the way I feel here. And even though, things were challenging during that time, I had some level of peace coming back. And so I quit my job and, just put all my savings into the store. And here we are, a year later almost. I signed my lease in October of last year and opened in January. So yeah, definitely. I was a scientist, lab scientist. I worked in the hospital, very practical person, and then just shifted entirely to my art and my spirituality, and by proxy of all the things that happened in my life during that time, and it ended up being an amazing choice. So I'm very happy.
My gosh, that's I'm sure you're aware of this, that just leaving your corporate job and opening a little witch shop in a small, cute town is like everyone's Hallmark movie dream.
I'm still waiting on my mailman or some other person that's going to come into the store and steal me away. But if that happens, then
your
I am in
woodworker.
Hallmark Dream. It happened.
just the local woodworker coming by and just,
Like,
you just happen to see the amazing mortar and pestles he makes, and you're like,
right?
oh,
Yes. That is what I'm looking for. I'm drawing it all in.
literally, someone write that script, and through some chaos magic, we will manifest this for you.
My best friend is working on it. She's like, this has to be a movie, and it's like, I want the same
Yes.
storyline, I wasn't given any of those narratives growing up. It's time. I want to be the practical magic man.
Yes, I want this for you as well. And I feel like San Marcos has a lot of, I'd say, younger people. For those who don't know, there's a college there. And is it my understanding that you are one of the first really like openly witchy uh, shops
There's a
to
few.
open there?
San Marcos is a very spiritual place, with all the
Mhm.
allusions to purgatory. The park's named that the river. The university draws a lot of open-minded folks. It
Right.
really has a lot to offer in that way. And actually, there are a few shops in town that offer similar things. We all have a different thing to offer. You know what I mean? Everyone has a different perspective, and yeah, so there's actually crystals and herbs and tea and zen and acupuncture and everything you could imagine here.
I love it because I feel like I've been out there a bunch of time, and this was the first time I heard a buzz of you have to go check out this shop. So you're
Okay.
doing a great job. That the buzz reached me before I had heard of any other locations there. So that's awesome that you're building a community. And so I know that your shop is beautiful. And when I visited, we talked, you had sourced a lot of this beautiful furniture from San Antonio,
Mhm. Yeah, I love,
which is the way to do it.
Magic of the Middle Ages is my whole thing. Like, and my vision with it was, I do want it to have this appeal that's like inherently light and bright and embodies some of the ideas people have about magic, from a fantasy sense. But, my practice is largely within the magic of the Middle Ages. I'm obsessed. So I wanted it to have this sort of like brooding, Baroque undertone of like something deeper is happening here. You know what I mean? Where people feel something when they walk in. And yeah, so that's kind of what my vision was for it when I was putting it together. And I'm in a 100-year-old building, so it came with the added benefit of having those beautiful built-ins and the wood floor that creaks and the skeleton key, all that kind of stuff.
And even you have to go around the back of the building to get in, so it has that almost like witchy speakeasy feel to it. So
I haven't even gotten a sign in the front. It's been almost a year because I love that, like, you have to seek it out. I love that it's something that you have to be drawn to. And I secretly call it the rose garden because the only people that are allowed in are roses. You got to find your way into it. And so I never have put a sign out, although my landlord is ready for me to do that and has been like, is there ever a sign coming? But I'm like, yeah, okay, well, I feel like signs are a talisman in their own way, and I want to be very thoughtful with it and very careful before it's like, okay, this is to the general public, because I think that very unique individuals are seeking it out, practitioners that are truly wanting to deepen in their practice or find niche things are coming there. Those are the people that are interested in it. I get people that are new to it too and curious also, but I would say that most people that come are people who are like established in their practice and just wanting tools or wanting a fresh start or get inspiration or something new kind of thing.
and it's always nice to support someone like minded and local versus like Amazon shipments,
Oh
I would
God.
say.
I Amazon is the worst. I mean, all of the with everything going on in the world right now, I mean, that is one of my, big archetypes is this liberation from the beast that is the whole thing, pushing us into the brackets, me going from that sort of like healthcare bureaucracy, corporate, thumb over my head to absolutely being in control of everything I'm doing has felt so liberating. And to me, that is also witchcraft. It's mundane in its own way, but the core of witchcraft is to liberate, and to make us live our true purposes and get higher and higher in our authenticity. I truly believe that.
I love that. Well, I believe that we use our voices through how we spend our money. And we're going to actually talk a little bit more about money in a little bit. But I wanted to circle back because you mentioned, and I know everyone's like, what does this mean? How you mentioned you're really obsessed with medieval
Oh yeah, Magic
magic.
Middle
And
Ages. Yeah.
how about you tell us all about this and perhaps how this is a unique form of magic?
Well, during that time, and the time period that I'm like particularly interested in would probably be about the year 1000 to the late 1400s. Um, the things that were documented during that time are some of the only things that were like truly preserved in Western mystic traditions, Western mystic ideas, because everything was kind of thrown, either lost from, the Library of Alexandria or whatever before, and then everything afterwards was either thrown away, discarded, considered heretical. So we just have this very like window look at one period of time, and the
I have
criticism
a
is,
theory that all of that from the Library of Alexandria is actually preserved in the Vatican, but so I don't
ooh,
think it's been destroyed. Yeah, I
that
the biggest occultist in the world, the Catholics, would not burn all of that wisdom. That's my thought.
for sure. And like honestly, if people are interested in magic of the Middle Ages, looking at Catholicism and looking at Orthodox church systems, there's so much in it that was from before, to have
Sorry,
people
I
convert.
interrupted you.
Oh no,
Yes,
you're
yes,
fine.
yeah,
And honestly, that
because I'm
that
obsessed.
is a place to look. Honestly, I get so much inspiration from that because that's some of the only stuff that was left. And I was gonna say earlier that some people critique magic of the Middle Ages because it's somewhat of a like Christian fever dream of the idea of what witchcraft is. But I fucking love it. Like I think that I love the brood of it. I love the undertone of power in darkness. I'm not afraid of darkness. I'm also not afraid of hell. I'm not afraid of the things within it. They are. And that's the key difference between us. You know what I mean? So it's not that I worship things from hell or even think about anything from that pantheon at all. I actually, don't really subscribe to any deities or anything like that. I'm very earth centric. But the practices are so artful. There's so much math. There's so much, intricacy in the drawings and in the poetry and the process. And that's really where like these systems of like quote unquote high magic were developed, but that's incredibly hierarchical and also bullshit. I don't necessarily think there is a difference between high and low magic. I think it's magic is magic is magic. You can make magic baking bread in your kitchen. You don't have to have a full-on ritual, but the ritual aspects of it and those processes with the planets or talismans or tools and that intricacy, it just makes my heart sing. I think it's beautiful, and part of why I love the shop too. And that illusion of the rose that I kind of talked about earlier is also really deeply tied in the magic of the Middle Ages too. The rose is of God. The rose is also Mary. The rose is the black earth, the thorns, protection, deep spiritual protection, but also this like vulnerability and sweetness and beauty. And yeah, that's a lot of the inspiration that kind of is the core of my practice. And I love things to be beautiful, and I love things to have sort of an undertone of like, do I really want to go there? Like, you have to seek it out if you want it.
I love all of this. This is so fascinating. And I love that you bring up the darkness, because that's something we talk about at the studio a lot. We immerse in the dark feminine, and how the darkness is not evil, and the darkness, we shouldn't fear it. It's actually where so much of our power lies. It's the subconscious, it's the void of creation. It is, the mystery is the magic. And so I do believe that certain systems have conditioned us to try to fear the darkness, but that's a controlling system, because they want us to fear where our power lies.
100%. I am right there with you. And I think that's why I wanted to be on this podcast with you, because I've seen your openness and understanding and discourse and information on that. And it's like, you have made a comment on one of your posts not too long ago that was like, don't confuse toxic positivity with someone who understands how to regulate their emotions. And I
Yes.
really truly connected with that, because I believe love is the greatest power of all, but we can't love can be acting through our anger, it can be acting through our sadness, it can be acting through our fear, because your fear wanted you to be safe, your anger wanted justice, your sadness meant something, it meant something had value, and you venerate and you grieve, you know what I mean? So I don't actually see the shadow as shadow at all. It's literally an undercurrent that's incredibly important. I dip my feet in it. I love it,
Yeah, there's a difference between I recently did a video on people who are like, I'm just a white witch. I'm only dealing in the good, and how problematic that is to just say like, well, white is good and black is bad. But also this idea that I don't want to deal with 50% of the human experience, the lightness and the dark, the sun and the moon, the yin and the yang. It's quite ignorant to think that you're living fully in your magic when you're not willing to when you're turning it off when the sun goes down.
That is such a great way to put it. I love it's like why be awake when you can dream? Like, you wouldn't do just one if you had an option, you want the full spectrum. And I love the spectrum of emotions there. And I think a lot of people are scared of it because it doesn't necessarily feel good at first hand. And like, something I tell people who are interested in protecting themselves, or they're interested in reclaiming in some way, or they have this desire to know more about this quote unquote dark side, I'm like, well, start in the light. If you love the light, look at the
Yes.
flame. The flame can burn. The flame has so much power. The sun itself, you can't even look upon it, you know what I mean? But it will scorch you. So that is like a gateway to some of these ideas where it's like, there is duality even in the thing that we think is the highest.
So true. And we just did a small retreat at the studio this weekend, and one thing we talked about is we've been conditioned to think that all of the quote unquote evil exists in the darkness, where I think it's actually the most scary evil there is that exists in the lightness, and
Hell
who
yeah.
are unapologetic about just being seen, and almost, that's the scary, because they exist in the light, people don't recognize it as evil. And so there's like this ignorance that comes with like everything, in the light is of highest esteem.
Yes, it's so interesting how we've pushed that way. I guess it's just because of what we can't see. Like, we don't want to
Mm-hmm.
look out a window at night because we don't know what will look back, kind of thing. So it's
Yeah.
inherently like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this. But yeah, like you said, the things that we can see, I mean, narcissism, uh, just people's negative people's negative perceptions,
Yeah.
people's general, walking around the world and thinking poorly about others. We're constantly being bombarded by things that, even people that are self-righteous, they think they're doing the right thing, and they think they're
Mm-hmm.
speaking from a place of love, but they're condemning or judging or, saying someone could go to hell. In my opinion, that's ultimate banefulmagic.com.
Yes.
If you're going to work with someone's soul and damn someone's soul, if you're going to that level, you are a malefic practitioner. And I don't care what your faith is. If you're wishing people
Right.
to die eternally in their soul, that is evil. That doesn't come from love or Christ or anything good.
Right. Not very Christ-like. Yeah. And I mean, the fact is there are, higher vibrational and lower vibrational beings. And spirits and entities. And, to be clear, neither of us are denying that there are going to be different vibrational beings and spirits that you can connect to. And obviously that's why we educate ourselves and we do things like protection magic and cleansings and clearings and things like that. But to relegate it simply to the darkness, I think is naive.
For sure. And that you make an awesome point that, understanding it is also an ability for us to be prepared. You can be gentle but ready. There's some I can't remember this Shaolin monk's name, but one of his quotes is something along the lines of like, always keep the Buddha heart but know the demon fist. And I love that, because like, if you can be strong in your physical body, if you can be strong in your mind and strong in your magical practice, nothing's going to touch you. You know what I mean? Building these things up and understanding the things that could happen give you an inherent protection. And I saw that within my last job too, being in the laboratory, where it's like I'm looking at really scary things. I worked with disease, in blood and body fluids, and looking at certain things, and analyzing certain things, and something even being on my hands where it's like I have touched mad cow in my life, if you can believe that. I was working with someone's specimen, and I was like, putting the CSF on a slide or whatever, and I was just like, oh my God, like, the level that I have come in my fear over disease just because I know about it now is amazing. And I think magic, spirituality, the dark side, all this stuff, like, the more you know about it, the more you can notice it, protect yourself from it, prevent things, and also just generally protect your energy and be 2 steps ahead of it.
Ooh, that's it. And that's the difference of doing magic when you need something versus living a magical life.
Yeah, yes, I think it is a lifestyle. I mean, I'm obsessed. So like, I'm like, I can't speak, because I literally, that's all I do all the time. It's my job, it's my hobby, it's my spirituality. It's like everything now. But it's fantastic, because it's given me, it is my number one interest, but also learning when to set it down and be like, okay, I need to take a break from this, take a step back, go to HEB, whatever. I don't know, like, mundane living now is like where I have to actually put my gaze to, because I'm always thinking like, how would I approach this in a magical way? So good to take breaks.
Yes. I mean, it's all about that healthy balance. It's all about, I mean, isn't that kind of the balance of the masculine and the feminine, the mundane and the magic, again, back to the yin and the yang. So we are humans here having a spiritual experience. If we just wanted to be spirits having spiritual experience, we wouldn't have reincarnated
Physical
here on the earth.
bodies,
So we have to, yes. So that's, unfortunately, we can't just ignore that aspect of ourselves. So, but I love the idea of, if you live a magical lifestyle, you are setting yourself up to already be prepared, to already be able to handle issues, versus when you wait for your life to turn to shit and then you decide you're going to start worrying about your magical hygiene or your energetic hygiene.
yes,
Then that's gonna have you on a roller coaster. So
100%. And knowing when it's time for it. One thing about owning the shop that has been new for me, because I'm a new business, obviously, so I'm kind of like, oh, I need to survive, I need to have clients, I need to have these things set up. But noticing when someone comes in and what they're telling me, and being able to say, is this the answer, is something that's new for
Ooh.
me. Because some people come in with problems that are outside of the scope of magic. It's something that they need to take it down a notch. Maybe something like meditation, or relaxation techniques, or just talking to someone might actually be a much better path than doing a spell. And when I first started, I was just, oh yeah, here, take this spell, take this candle, take this herb. Like, yes, we can address it this
Ah.
way. And then as I have been zooming out, and some feedback from certain situations, I've been like, oh yeah, you know what, this situation wasn't for that. Like, we shouldn't have talked magic at all. And that is something that has been growth for me, and I want to become more aware of those signs. I'm really concerned with the ethics of magic and the ethics of our spiritual practices in the witchcraft realm, because like you and I have talked before, scams, uh, people preying on other people's vulnerability. How do we as practitioners have foresight about someone's situation, but don't bombard them with information that's going to make them more anxious or not feel better at all? What is in that person's highest good? Is it in this tea that I could make them, or do they need to go talk to someone?
Oh my gosh, that's so timely, because we have a online virtual community called the Multiverse, and someone had posted a question recently about spells for depression and anxiety. And, my response was, like, you shouldn't be looking for like a spell for this. This is something that actually has to be like a lifestyle reflection, and also probably dealing with a therapist. And you could probably, yes, drink this tea to calm your nerves.
Right.
Burning this candle with intention can be helpful in tandem with work outside of like a spell book.
Absolutely. And holistic medicine, witchcraft, these are all things, these are systems of nourishment, is what I tell people now. Is like, this is something that's giving you a hug around your life, around the things that you're dealing with, but you are the one that has to get to the crux of the issue. And you are the magic at the end of the
Yes.
day. It's you that's going to make the thing work or not. It's not the candle, it's not the tea, it's not the thing you're going to buy. It's you. These are adornments to nourish our tree of spirituality, nourish our tree of humanity, what we find beautiful. And you can assign meaning to anything, but rabbit holing, like, you mentioned anxiety, for example. Like, that's something I've dealt with for forever. I have it since I was a kid, and I use it in my magic now, which is amazing. Come to a new place where my own fear is now my greatest protector, and I have kind of really pivoted the idea that this thing is destroying me. So magic has been cognitive behavioral for me, in a sense, where I've isolated a problem and I've been like, okay, no, that is my energy, but I don't need it to burn me up. So repurposing, changing how that is, but knowing when it's too out of control, or knowing when it's hit a threshold where it's like, I need help, I need an external thing. It's really challenging to know when that threshold happens for a lot of people, and it's especially challenging for someone externally, unless they're a medical professional, to be like, oh, this person needs this level of intervention. So yeah, I
Right.
agree with you. It's a challenging thing to hurdle, but it's possible to supplement your life with both.
Right. Yeah. Don't look for one to replace the other. And also, this is why I consider movement a form of magic, because we can experience so much shift and transformation through somatic processing, and, teamed with the energetic resonance of spell work, of witchcraft. And you combine those two, and you can have a really effective processing and recalibrating. However, Yes, let's be mindful of when we are trying to bypass doing certain works by lighting a candle.
For sure. Or rest, just resting, there's
Yes.
blessing in just chilling out too. I love the movement
Right.
aspect, and I love that about your practice too, because I think you're really on this path of knowing the power of the physical body, and it's just as powerful as the spiritual body. It's as above so below. Everything is not only reflective, it's one and the same. Your body is a spiritual vessel, and I think that's so cool, and I want to get into more of those practices because I'm so cerebral, I'm so technical, that I'm like, maybe I just need to go for a run. Maybe I need to go
I
for a walk.
know.
Maybe we need to dance, do some yoga. There's so much power. Our body's a key, just ready to unlock
Mhm.
magic.
Right. Absolutely. Well, you're welcome to come move with us anytime.
Oh, that's so
But
sweet of you.
yes, I absolutely agree. And in the age of Aquarius, where we are like an information overload and cerebral madness and just everything, I want to learn all the things, hear all the things, read all the things. It's imperative that we also honor, the element of earth, the grounding, the rooting in our own bodies. So
Absolutely. That
yeah,
is, I'm really loving grounding right now too. That has been, that's something that has been talked about since the beginning of all this stuff, right? And it's something I've never put into practice until now. And
really.
yeah, like the last year, I was like, what really is the difference between grounding myself and meditating, or mind body connection? And now I got it. And it's literally the physical connection with the earth, like there's no
Right.
separation from the charge of your body and the charge of the ground, and you rebalance just simply by having a connection with it, standing on it, sitting on it, dancing on it, however you want to do it, just getting your feet physically on the ground, which inherently takes the mind back into the body. And it's amazing how simple it is, because kind of like we talked before, I'm very out there, so I've always looked really outwardly and up high for answers, but 9 times out of 10 the answer can be as simple as just putting your feet on the ground. Like, you don't actually have to do all that stuff out there to find enlightenment. And we were kind of talking about that earlier, because I think that witchcraft and the magic of the Middle Ages that I was kind of talking about, these Western systems of Western mystic traditions, are forms of enlightenment practices. Many look to the East for answers, and I love the East, and I love yoga and traditional Chinese medicine and all of these things. But we could also look to the earth itself, just simplistically, like I
Mhm.
mentioned, with having your feet on the ground, the sun, the earth, the moon, and just the basic orbiting of the planets can actually be an enlightenment system on its own. And I think witchcraft is one too.
Absolutely. This idea of, even this is where herbalism comes in. This is where working with crystals comes in. This is where, calling upon the elements and our astrology. And again, it's so funny. I was just saw a video this morning about someone saying that, there's God and light, and then there's the devil, and how astrology is the work of the devil. And I'm just like, I just does not
Yeah.
comprehend how something like astrology and studying the energetic aptitudes of the planets in the sky has anything to do with not God, if God created all things. And it's like this fear tactic of like, don't learn to know yourself better. Don't learn to understand that God is the natural world, the earth, the all that is. Think of it as an entity in the sky that's judging you and damning you to hell. Like, how controlling is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe not at a grand scale, but I do see it, and maybe it's owning the shop and the curious onlookers that occasionally come in. People, I think, are starting to see who the real devils and demons are.
Yeah.
It's the manipulation. It's people telling you not to think outside of yourself and to listen to them. That
Yeah.
isn't the answer. You have to, and it again brings me back to that core word of authenticity that we were talking about earlier. I think that no one's gonna like you until you're all the way yourself, and then when you're all the way yourself, you're gonna want to be like, get away from me. Like people, that's how everything works. And people that see that in other people want to snuff it out. They do it to
Mm.
children, unfortunately, the most, in their art, in their curiosities, in their interests. And someone who had it snuffed out in them, they see it, they want to snuff it out, and they use these very like arbitrary examples, like you mentioned, about something being like the devil, like you can't even see this thing, right? Like, but that's what they're going to latch onto. But you know what I can see? I can see the ground, I can see the earth, I can see the sun, I can see the moon, I can literally mathematically point out these systems, I can see what's going on here. And to tell me that I need to go with something I can't see is bullshit. you know that's my
Yes.
rebuttal now whenever anything latches on that way.
Yes. And how can something that was created, by a source or a god, how can we relegate but if you work with that like herb, or if you, look to the planetary pool, like now that's evil. But yeah, I think anyone, and that's why also people will come to us and ask, what are you Wiccan? And I always say, we are no spiritual dogma. You can be whatever you want. We have Christians, we have, people who are Jewish, we have, people who are just claim spirituality, pagans, whatever, because the natural world doesn't care. It still
Does it?
exists, and it's still, and so I am always really clear to be like, you have your belief system, and be wary of anyone who tells you that you have to follow them to a T, because no one has all the answers, because everyone has a unique human experience. And going back to, the Middle Ages, the the phrase "know thyself," that's to me what you were kind of getting at before, that this idea, when I use these systems to understand myself at a deeper level, that's where true expansion, and when I think that's what people see where they get scared.
For sure. I love the know thyself thing, and it's so interesting. Like all the problems of humanity have been discussed over and over and over and over. Like none of these things are new, the problems that have come up, but people have created dogma and other systems to try to be like, oh, this is how you deal with it. And I'm right there with you. I'm anti-dogma, anti, rules when it comes to spirit. The spirit knows no bounds. It knows no
Yeah.
constrictions. Like humans know constrictions. And, on that note, we also look, and with my own practice, like looking to the past, looking to these old systems, I only do it for inspiration. I will never
Yeah.
take everything as 100%, because it's kind of like, would you go back to the Middle Ages and go get your appendix
No.
removed? Like, no, you're never going to go there and have surgery. So learning from now and like really bringing those tools forward into modern life, and being like, how does, this queer witch in 2023 see what these Christian mages were doing in the 1400s in their hierarchical ways, and make it my own.
Oh my gosh. That is like, to me, that's the fun part. I think a lot of people default to tell me what to believe, tell me what to do, because people are so used to systems, whether it's the educational system, whether it is religious systems, or, raised in a family where your life was dictated. Well, this idea of sovereignty, I think, is new to a lot of people. And this idea that, like, wait, I can have a belief system based on my own intuition, or based on my own experiments of what works and what doesn't, and it doesn't have to look like anyone else. But that's like when you're gonna find, because not everything works for everyone. Everyone is unique individuals.
100%. You have to take your own programming and your own perception and harness it into something that assigns what's going to happen. Aligns with your joy, makes you experience happiness in this life, because I personally believe that the point of life is joy. Like, I want to have as much fun as possible. I want to enjoy this experience. I'm not concerned with what's after this because I don't know, but I do know that I can experience great things in this world. And, despite the challenges, the goal is always, let's have fun. Let's have a great fucking time. You know?
I love that. I know I feel so bad for people who adhere to spiritual systems that like strip that of their lives,
Oh my God,
wouldn't
the idea
you?
that sin is fun. Like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
What? Yes. And this idea also, when you do magic, when you are enjoying it, when you are having fun, when you can get even a bit cheeky or irreverent, to me, my experience is that strengthens your magic because you're disarming a little bit and you're releasing this any kind of fear or resistance, because it just seems so silly and it just seems so airy fairy that you release these blocks. You rip down this wall of like resistance of like, it can't happen, this is too serious, I did it wrong. When you can just have fun with
Sure.
it, all of a sudden your resonance increases and you release any like boundaries around it.
I love it. I love that. And what that is, if I have any dogma, it's one thing. And that's one thing is, I will never deflate my craft. If I mess up, I don't believe in backfire anymore. It's something that I don't even
Oh,
subscribe to. I'm not going to tell myself that my art, that is of my heart, of flowing through my hands, that's of God, that it could backfire on me. Like, I refuse. And I think, and I love, I don't mean to, like, there's Christians out there that are great people, but, I think about Christians at large, right? And this is something my best friend always says is like, would they ever tell themselves that their prayer is going to backfire? No, they
right.
just do it. But we have so much rhetoric in the witchy spaces that something could go wrong, or that you didn't do it right, or you didn't use the right candle. You used a yellow candle. What's going on? Like, it's not correct. I think that, if your instinct said to use the yellow candle, if you mapped it out, it's your art. I mean, that's why they call it the craft. It's your craft.
Mm.
You're literally making something from your subconscious inner world with your own programming, your own perception, and putting these unseen thoughts, they're not real, and they're taking their first step into reality. So don't ever deflate it. That's my big dogma is, don't deflate your magic. Never speak poorly of it or think that it's working against you, because it's your art.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know I've said, like, I promise you're not going to summon a demon if you use a blue candle instead of a pink candle for a love spell. Like, it's just not going to
Right.
happen.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to be a
And you
lot more
can go.
intentional that to get the demons.
I have, like the Chopped challenge, like the cooking shows where it's like, make a recipe using like, I don't know, they're like a Snickers bar, a stick of celery, and some butter, and you got to make something out of it. I swear that I have a unique ability to do that with witchy tools now, and I could turn that blue candle into a love spell, no problem. I get the ocean, origin
Yes.
energy, the sky, the vastness within me. That is love, you know what I mean? Drawing that thing in. So there's always a way, you know what I
It's
mean? Something can be
it,
tied back.
yes, the idea of like bringing creativity to the craft is huge. This idea of like, how can you make it's like Tim Gunn, make it work moment, and you just having like the basic have the basic understanding of how magic works and then use your creativity. Like, I love when we have classes where it's like forced creativity, and I'll be like, you have this and this, what kind of spell are you going to do with this? And
I love it.
hearing what people will come up with, and it's like, it opens it up and it kind of makes it more accessible to people, and hopefully it makes people feel more sovereign in their ability to create their own spells and to dictate their own form of witchcraft. And this is something you kind of had hinted at before and that I wanted to talk to you about, because you and I both get this, and you get it a whole lot more than me, but I get it enough where it drives me fucking bananas, where we get on social media scam accounts, copy our accounts almost to the T. But there's an extra letter or space or something. They go ahead and they follow all of the people who follow us. And then those who follow them back, thinking that we followed them, they then start messaging through DMs and scaring the living. Well, first it starts, hello, love.
Right.
And I say, I've never called anyone. I never said Grand Rising Love to anyone in my entire life. So if you got a DM that says Grand Rising Love, it's not me. But
Never.
And then they'll go in and they'll say, oh, my heart was pulled to you, like, you know, that your energy was calling, like, can I do a reading? And then they spiral, and then they say, oh, you have a dark energy that's preventing, you have sadness, I can remove. And it's like preying on, yeah, like we're humans, we all have sadness, like, yeah, we're humans, like we all feel like we desire more. And they feed on people who think it's us, and who've like, some of these people have ruined yours and my reputation because some people never realize that it wasn't us and think that we're kooks and that we're like soliciting them in their DMs. But this idea that this is where I went deep with it, that I have found such stress. On one hand, no, not victim blaming. This is a fucking shitty practice. It goes back to the Nigerian prince scam and email. But this idea that since yes, oh my gosh, and it's like, you know,
the oldest scam in the book for sure.
Scammers be scamming. But what frustrates me the most is that people are willing to throw hundreds, if not thousands of dollars at these scam artists versus just coming and taking a class or coming and getting some witchy supplies and doing their own magic. And I get gotten so many people who are like, oh, I've actually had people call, I've sent them $400. And I'm like, but you've never spent $30 on a class with me. So it's interesting that, you know, and again, like, this isn't meant to be cruel or blaming or anything, but just thought provoking of how we have no money to do the things sometimes that are really going to create meaningful shift by us sovereignly showing up and doing the work, versus I all of a sudden have a lot of money to give someone who's just going to make my problems go away, which is like not a thing.
I think so much of it is the scammers are appealing to two things, you know, ego, other people's ego, by coaxing. And if that doesn't work, if they can't get the ego, then they prey on the fear. They prey on the vulnerability, someone's, situation in life that makes them scared or sad or whatever. And those two methods work very wonderfully, right, in sales. And you and I don't do that. Like, we're looking to boost people into authenticity. So that can't ever be our tactic. But it is interesting that it works so well. You know, I had a scenario recently where someone said they gave $1,000 to the person who was impersonating me. And it's like, hearing that information kind of hurt my feelings in the sense that, like, this scammer is selling me better than I'm selling myself. You know what I mean? I was like, where is this coming at? Because, like, I was like, this is me, you know? He's selling me, but they're believing them and they're not listening to me. So what's the difference? And I'm like, the difference is that they're appealing to a different part of the psyche, a different part of the emotions, and it's evil. And I believe in divine right. You know what I mean? I believe about earning money through divine right. Everything I've ever done has been about, what do I agree with? What do I align with? The only kind of customers I want to come into my store are people that I align with. I am big on creating boundaries against things that are going to keep other people unsafe or feel threatened. So this scenario has been really challenging for me because it is creeped in, right? But I'm going to say the power of the cease and desist is amazing. And I don't send it to the scammer. I send it to Instagram, and I had 7 impersonators. And Instagram has been very good at deleting them the second they get that cease and desist. So to creators
Oh,
that
that's
are,
good to know, because I
I
couldn't
just,
get them to put it down for anything.
oh yeah, I mean, I hate having to send that level of a letter, but I got one drafted, that uses my business, and I think that it's important that witchy creators know that they can do that. Go contest it,
Yeah, thank you for
but
sharing that.
yeah, just go to that next level, like, because at the end of the day, Instagram isn't acting. They're not taking the accounts down. People are being preyed on. Money, it's fraud. It's enabling fraud. And if they don't act, I think that they should be held accountable. And that's what my cease and desist says. So I got 7 accounts removed that were impersonating me in the last month from doing that. So it's a great thing to have in the arson. And also, don't forget, you
Known
can
it.
hex them too. Like, not Instagram, but the scammers, if
I
you need
just
to.
your magic, your choice.
Right.
Yeah, it's well, that's good to know that that is an option for next time this happens, which I hope it doesn't, but it is so infuriating. And it's exactly what we talked about before with people having you fear eternal damnation in hell and fearing that your soul is going to hell. That's the same tactic that these scammers are using, that you have a dark entity, you
Right.
have something blocking you, and I can remove it.
Yes.
This, my work can remove it, or this belief system can remove it. And fear is such a powerful control mechanism. And so I always try to step back every now and then and say, where am I acting out of fear, and where's this fear being instilled, and how is it controlling me and keeping me from living in my divine higher power? Because when people are trying to freak you the fuck out, they're probably trying to control you in some way. And in our instance, trying to get you to send them some money through Cash App to all of a sudden dissolve all of their problems.
And those behaviors can be seen in even more advanced ways, in the workplace, like bad leadership, things like that. People use these energies all the time. Everyone is inherently magical. Your enemies have just as much access to magic and control of energy as you do. Learning how to combat it and learning when to see it is like, I don't know. It's a skill that they're getting me occasionally. I got a scam the other day. Someone sent me a text being like, "We need your code for your bank because we saw an unauthorized charge of $5,000 or something," and they're like, "We're sending you a code." And I was like, oh, "Okay," I typed the code in, and I was like, "Wait, don't hit send." And I went back to my bank, and there was no transaction. So I was like, "Oh my God!" Like, they get very creative, and so they're either going to work with a process that already exists in place that you think is trustworthy. Question everything. Or they're going to go with your fear or negative emotions or your ego. Like, those are the options, and they swoop in, and they're really creative. And it's really unfortunate, but that's the world we live in, so we got to be on guard.
And you know what? It brings it back to, this is where understanding your foundational witchcraft and magical methodologies and practices, and having, I always say, an understanding of how it works. I want to know why the green candle. I want to know why the Valerian. I want to know why am I placing my altar in this direction? Because when you understand that, then you understand the basis of magic, and you can see it happening outside of the witchy community. You see it in politics, you see it in advertising, you see it in it's relationship dynamics. And so it's, to me, when you learn magical and witchy foundation, it applies beyond your spiritual practice, and you're just you can't unsee things. You take that blue pill and you're like, it's all over.
100%. I think it's a pattern recognition. It does all go outward. And a lot of these systems were really mathematical, like especially astrology. So there's some inherent, not to get dogmatic, but there is some inherent determinism, I guess, with them because math rules these systems. So if you can get it
Oh,
back down to a number, it's like, wow, well, that number means this. And, um, so yeah, it's very interesting how that is. But
do you
the
do
power of
that
your
too? Or are
mind.
you always like, yeah, sorry, go
No,
on.
no,
Yeah,
go
the
ahead,
power
no.
of the mind is,
Oh, I was
I
just
was
gonna
just going
say,
to say, are you the person?
I know we have a glitch or something. Sorry.
There's a
You
slight
go.
delay in the podcast, y'all. So if you're like, gosh, they're just talking over each other, Wade, you go.
So I guess I was just gonna say the power of mind is above all. That was my last thought on that piece.
I agree. And then I was just going to say, are you the type of person that always like reduces numbers down to its essential number to try to get the numerological association? That's when you
Yes.
know that when I'm just constantly like looking at numbers and like, ooh, what's the association? I mean, we'll have to do a whole other episode on the sacred
Yeah.
geometry and numerology. Oh, it's fascinating.
I would love to talk, on that sometime. I think it's fascinating. I think all the numbers correlate with the dimensions too, so everything has a
Ah,
mirror.
he brought up dimensions. Oh my gosh.
We're
I
like
mean,
rabbit holing, like
well, you know what we're gonna have to do? We're gonna have to have you on again, and we'll have to call it like the blue pill let's get weird and go down the rabbit hole
yes.
episode. Does that sound like a plan?
I loved it. Yeah, that's literally what we did today. And we didn't plan these topics. So I'm kind of like, wow, we really did it. We went in, we solved all the problems of light and dark in 1 hour.
It's true. It's true. Well, whatever's meant to come up in these episodes come up, and you're so knowledgeable. And so what I think we should do is let's go into those questions that I ask
Yeah,
everyone. Yeah, as we
absolutely.
wrap up. So, first question, what is your personal mantra or source of daily inspiration?
Well, I cheated a little bit and I kind of said that answer earlier, but it changes. But the core of the last 5 years or so has been love is the greatest power of all. Everything I do is from love, but I also see my negative emotions from love too. I've had a lot of fear, I've had a lot of anger, I've had a lot of sadness. Everyone has, but these emotions had caused problems in my life that grew out of control at one point, right? And when I learned that they were actually acting from love, some kind of perception changed for me, especially with fear. So fear to me now is actually my greatest protector. It loves me so much that all it wants is for me to be safe. So using fear energy in magic for protection workings has been a game changer. Literal fiery walls of protection with my own fear. And I learned that from reading King Tut's Tomb, which is a short line that says something along the lines like of, if someone should open this, may they be filled with my fear. He made his own tomb a talisman of his fear. And then when I was thinking of that, I was like, you know what? They couldn't handle my fear, the shit that I've been through, the things that I felt. No one could handle it. It's actually a really powerful protecting force. So shifted my power on the other side, where now I have a very healthy relationship with my own fear, with the things that scare me. Same with anger. Anger was always keeping score. Anger was seeing, when something wasn't right, saying, I wish this would have happened. I wish you would have been safe. It cared so much about me. And we are just taught to turn the other cheek or to not have a response. So I think of anger differently now too. And I listen to it and I ask, what are you trying to tell me? What is unjust here? Where did something go wrong? What do I need to be aware of so we are safe? And then sadness, is veneration. I think sadness just means that something was important. It meant something, means something. And when we lose something, it's sad and we grieve. So in depression, in grief, there is so much veneration. And that's in my practice where I put the ancestral altar, the, offerings, anything where it's like things have moved into loss. It's that autumnal cycle, the seasons always move, energies always move. So that is it. Love is the greatest power of all, and it can be seen within all things, even the darkest parts.
I love that. That was so beautifully put. And now that
Thank
makes
you.
sense why yeah, of course, that you liked the idea of not confusing toxic positivity for being in command of your emotions, because it sounds like you learned. To me, emotional intelligence is one of the most important skills we can learn as a human. And so many people lack it. So the fact that you have found this system through magic to be able to manage your emotions is fucking powerful. And the fact that you understood magic enough and trusted your creativity to read that King Tut statement and figure out how to create your own spells, I mean, that's exemplary. So I love it.
Oh, thank you. You're so sweet. But that was a game changer. That reading his tomb was literally like, wait a minute, we can do that? And I was like, oh,
Yes,
let me.
you can. That's so, and people are going to find that really helpful. So thank you for sharing.
Of course. Yeah, my pleasure.
Yes. And then I had to ask, what is your favorite sensuous indulgence?
I love that question. It's that question is giving like Black Phillip, like, wouldst thou like to live
What
deliciously? You're my
deliciously?
lady at the crossroads. I love it. I love all of it. I love every indulgence. Food, sex, drinks. It's more about like, noticing the chains where I kind of am like, I don't like to overindulge, but I love indulging on any of the pleasures that life has to offer unapologetically, and, feeling good, because they do. They all feel good.
Yes, it's that having that healthy, well, and here's the thing. When you have a healthy relationship with pleasure like that, you really do tend to have more power over things like addictions or overindulgence, or giving it, because a lot of times when you have an unhealthy association with pleasure, you don't know when to stop, right? And it comes to an unhealthy level. And so I love this statement of like, I love indulging
I
in
love it.
pleasure, and it is
I
my
think about
it's my earthly right.
it is. And I love that question too, because it reminds me of the man in black, or, the man at the crossroads, or the lady at the crossroads, kind of offering you the world. And, this puritanical pressure to say, you can't have it, or you're a sinner, or things will go awry should you indulge, like, let your hair down, enjoy this short life. And yeah, what you said
Right.
with addictions, a lot of that is about permission, because you use the word sovereignty a lot, and you can't be sovereign to the alcohol, to the sex, to the whatever it is.
Ooh.
You got to be sovereign to you. So
The
you come
shopping, the
first,
money.
right? Any
Yes.
aspect, like, you have to put yourself first. That stuff feels great, but
Ooh.
you're not sovereign. It is not sovereign to you,
Yeah. Yeah, love it. Yes,
no
and
rulers.
obviously addiction is a real thing. So seek treatment if you have addiction. All right. And finally, what does living fully in your power as a witch look like to you?
So, interesting with the last thing that we talked about, my answer is actually related, but it's revocation of access. I think that a huge part of my practice and power comes from knowing my thresholds of energy, and where do I stop with people, places, magic itself, entities, energies, dimensions. There, I want to be in control. So one of my daily practices is I come home, and at the end of every day, I have a little mantra where I say, I revoke all access from any person, place, or thing during my day where I may have given permission, consciously or unconsciously or subconsciously, back to me and just do basically a mini power recall, because there's so many points throughout our day where we people please, or we aren't feeling that great and we mask, or we shift our energy to appeal to society. And there's just natural vampirism within all things with everybody. We breathe air, and we take from, we eat food. Everything takes from something. It has to get energy from something else. So it's a natural process, but it can leave you drained if you just are walking around blindly with it. So a huge core of my practice is to every day revoke that access. And that comes back to liberation. I want to be liberated and be sovereign, like you said, to myself with no rulers, reclaiming my path as my own, reclaiming my power. So that's where I'm at right now. And revocation is the word that I use. I'm like, I revoke the permission, because I'm just someone that naturally is very nice to people, and sometimes I'll get carried away in the like, oh no, I just gave everything away, that I didn't mean to give, and then I'm drained at the end of the day. And being mindful of that has really brought me to a place of autonomy now. And we've said all the authenticity, sovereignty, those are core staples, and then leading to your liberation.
I love it. I have a very similar ritual, but I'm going to add to it the revoke permission verbiage, if you're okay with me appropriating
Please.
that, because
Yes.
at the end of the day, we got to cleanse off that residual energy, not our own, and call ours back. But I love that wording. So
yeah, it's like a thing, because we want to be nice, we want to be kind, we want to do the right thing, and there's this unconscious level of permission we give in 100 scenarios a day, even checking out at the grocery, even bumping someone in the shoulder. I don't know, like, we make these bonds, and then it leaks energy. It makes us end up have a drain. Some of it's natural, and some of it is we're our own worst enemy, and it can get even bigger scales depending on what someone might be dealing with. And I think that I've been at places in my life where I've really let that just be like, it was like a tire. I just felt so deflated by society. And now I'm just all about like, is this going to take from my energy? Is it going to take from my time? Is it going to take from my money? Is it, I think of all of the possible scenarios where something could leach from me.
My
and
joy.
Your joy, yes. If something is seeing you as a resource, if it's a person, place, thing, that's not the answer. I say no. I don't do it. I don't proceed if I'm the resource.
Oh, that's awesome. And I love our archetype of the month here in November of 2023 at the studio is the divine liberator. So I love that liberation kept coming up, because I think people listening to this will actually can start seeing that archetype in an expanded way. So
I love it. That is the archetype. And if anyone wants a suggestion on an archetype, Aradia was the original name of the shop. I was going to name the shop Aradia, who is, the daughter of Diana, who is a goddess, but an earthbound goddess of witchcraft. And she came to Earth to liberate people through magic. And I love her as an archetype because it's really punk rock. It's about, liberating from the oppressor, liberating from slavery, burning the crops of the people who control them. Like, it's like really intense stuff. And I love her as an archetype. She's changed my perspective of magic at large.
I love that. Definitely going to share that with all the witches who I know are going to love this podcast. So, Wade, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. Yes, I want to give you the opportunity. How can people find you? How can they appropriately not steal your energy, but not vampirically stalk you, but just appropriately?
Coming to the shop, I love meeting people. I love having people. I love talking to people, and that will never steal my energy. And I have good boundaries when it comes to that. So coming to the shop itself in San Marcos, at 323 West Hopkins in the back of the building, or my social media, Wade.Vetiver on Instagram, and I'm also on TikTok. Wade Vetiver is my username there. I'm a little more raw and kooky on TikTok. I think that I just do whatever on TikTok, but Instagram is definitely focused around the store and more of my magical ideas and things like that. So love the Instagram.
Check them both out. And I'm going to also share you're having a virtual class that I'm
Oh,
going to
yeah.
sign up for. Yeah.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah, this coming Monday on the 13th, 7:30 p.m.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a virtual class on like the foundations of witchcraft and magic, and there'll be a replay if you can't make it live. I know that we already have something going on at the studio, but I'm going to sign up for the replay. So,
Oh, you're so sweet. Well, I'll send you a little code after this, so you can just come on it.
No. That's no. I support magical practitioners.
You are so sweet.
Wade, thank you so much. This is such an amazing conversation.
You. Likewise,
yes.
I loved it. Loved the energy. You're wonderful. I love seeing you online. Thank you for everything.
Absolutely. Bye.
Thank you for joining me for the Minx and Muse podcast. You can find show notes and learn more about the studio at www.minxandmuse.com. As a reminder, it is our birthright to transform, expand, and safely exist as sensual, conscious, and empowered creatures.